Hey, hi and welcome back. Now let's start with this video, which is Introduction to Layout Editor Part 3. So now let me tell you what you will learn in this video. So till now we have completed lot of tools and now we are just remained with some of the tools. Now let me show you what tools we are going to cover in this video. So these are the tools that we are going to cover in this video. The first one is polygon, then the second one is text, then the rat nest, dimension, then ERC tool, and in the end warnings. Okay, so these are basically the tools that we are going to cover in this video. Now let's start with this polygon tool. After that, the next option is polygon option. So at this moment, let's not discuss this polygon option. Okay, so first of all, I will explain this text option and later I will explain this rat nest option. And after that, I will explain you this polygon option, because in order to explain this polygon option, you should know this rat nest option. Okay, so first of all, let me explain this text option and later I will explain this rat nest and then polygon. Okay, now you know when you create the PCB, for example, you are creating a PCB for your company, then after completing the PCB, you are going to write the name of that particular company, right? So in that case, you have to use this particular option, which is text option. So you have to select that option, and after that I will write some text here, and after that I will click on OK. Now here you can see this cipher to infinity text is basically on the copper layer, or it's on the top layer. But generally, when you place the name on the PCB, it's actually not going to be on top layer. Okay, so we actually use this layer, which is actually called as T names, which stands for top names. Okay, T stands for the top layer and the names stands for the names on the top layer. So these are different layers which are actually available in the layout editor. And what are those layers and what's their significance? I'm going to discuss all these things in the part 3. So at this moment, just remember that whenever we place the name on the PCB, we are actually going to place it on the T names layer. Okay, so I will select this one, layer number 25, T names. And after that, I will place it here. Okay, I will just left click of mouse. And after that, in order to get rid of this name, I will click the escape. Okay, and then again, this dialog box will appear. And here we have to click on cancel. Now, let's see how exactly this name look like on the manufacturing or on the PCB. So you can see this is how basically the name look like. Okay, so that's how you can actually name your PCB with the help of this text option. All right. So after that, the next option is rat nest option. Okay, so let me explain this option now. Now here you can see on this layout editor, there are actually two registers, R4 and R3. First of all, let me bring them on the top layer. It's because it's a little confusing. So I will bring them on the top layer. Again, this register, I will bring it on the top layer. And let me rip up these tracks. Okay, so I will just rip up these tracks. Okay, and after that, again, this one is remained. All right. So basically, when we use the rat nest option, whenever we have to resolve the connections or whenever we have to create the shortest path for a specific connection. So I will explain you that now. Now here, if you see, this register R4 is placed here. Okay. And now what I will do, I will place this register R4 here. Okay. And after that, I will place this register R3 here. Okay, so just let me place this register R3 here. Okay, now if you see, this connection is actually going from this pad towards this R4, and then from R4 it's going towards the R3. So it could be like this. If it has to be a shortest connection, then it has to go from this pad towards this pad and then towards this pad. But at this moment, this connection is like this. So when you click on this rat nest option, it's going to resolve that connection and it's going to form the shortest path. Okay, so whenever we create the layout, this particular option is actually very important. Okay, after placing a component at a suitable location, after every placement you have to click this particular option in order to resolve the connection. So I will show you one more time. So let me place this register. Let me place it here. Okay. And after that, let me place this register R4 here. Now, if you see, this is basically the shortest connection, but it went like this and then it came towards this R4. Now let's see what happens when I click this rat nest option. So you can see the connection is going from this pad towards this pad, okay, then from here to here. So whenever you select this rat nest option, it's actually going to, create the shortest connection. So this is basically one of the purpose of this rat nest option. Alright, so we are done with the rat nest option. Now let me explain you this polygon option. Now what's the purpose of this polygon option? Whenever we have to create the plane on the PCB, at that time we actually use this polygon option. Now why we create the plane? Okay, we actually create the plane on the PCB to, distribute the current, or whenever we have to distribute the heat dissipation on the PCB, at that time we actually create the plane. Generally, we create the plane for the ground pad or for the ground. Okay, or we also create the plane for the different power rails like plus 5 volt, 3.3 volt, in order to deliver the right amount of current or large amount of current to that particular IC or that particular component. Now straight away I will show you how exactly we create the plane with the help of this polygon. So I will select this option now. First of all, I will select the layer. I will go to top layer here. After that, I will select this polygon option. And in order to create the polygon, I will just left click of mouse and straight away I will create a small plane. So this is how basically I will create the plane. You can draw the plane of any dimension and any size, it's up to you. And you just have to close the plane from the point where you started. Okay, so I will left click of mouse and now it's asking me what will be the name of that particular plane. So I will give the name as ground plane, okay, as I want to create a ground plane. Okay, if you want to create a plus 5 volt plane or 3.3 volt plane, you can do that. Okay, but at this moment, in our schematic we don't have the plus 5 volt rail or 3.3 volt rail. So if we write the name of 5 volt or 3.3 volt, the plane will not be created. But we have the symbol for the ground in the schematic. That's why if I write ground here, then that particular plane will be created. Okay, so I will write here GND and after that I will click on OK. Again, I will show you why I have written GND. So you can see here the polygon is now created, and if I click on rat nest, then that particular polygon will be actually poured. Okay, and if you observe here, this polygon is actually connected to this particular pin of this IC. The reason is this particular pin is actually the ground pin in the schematic editor. So you can see this is actually the ground pin. That's the reason this plane is actually connected to this particular pin. Okay, so I hope that this is clear now. So whenever you have to create the plane on the layout or on your PCB, you will use this particular option, which is polygon, and with the help of this polygon option we will create the plane, and this is how basically the plane is going to look like. And if you observe, this particular plane is actually only connected to this pin of this IC. It's not connected anywhere else. Okay, in the same way, this plane is not connected to the other pins of this IC and then again to this resistor. So everywhere it's not connected except at this particular point, because this point is the ground point on this IC. And when we created this polygon, at that time I have given the signal name as GND. The reason was, you can see here, the symbol name is GND. Instead of this ground, if we had a power symbol of plus 5 volt here, then in that case we would have provided the signal name as plus 5 volt. Okay, so I hope that this particular point related to polygon is clear now. And if you still have any doubt, then you don't need to bother about it, because when we will create the layout for our hardware, at that time this point will be clear to you. Alright, so after that, now let's go ahead. So these options are actually not that important. Signal split, yeah, split option is actually important. So I will show you what's the purpose of this split option. So I will show you how exactly we split. So first of all, let me delete this plane. So I will just click on the edge of this plane, and you can see polygon is actually now deleted. Now if you have to split this polygon, then we actually use this option, split option. So I will just left click and you can see the polygon is now splitted, and I can redraw that particular polygon in the way I want. Okay, so that's how. And in order to get rid of this polygon, I will just click on escape. Okay, so that's basically the purpose of this split option. I hope that it's clear now. After that, these all options are actually not that important, so I'm just going to skip these options. Okay, Then the next option here is dimension. So dimension option is actually important. So I will explain you that. So whenever you have to know, or whenever you want to know the dimension of the PCB, or you want to know the distance between the two components, in that case you can actually use this dimension option. Okay, so I will select this option, and now let's see the size of this layout board or this particular board. So I will select, I will click on the left click of the mouse at this point. Okay, and after that I will click, I will extend it, and I will go at this point. So yeah, and after that you can see the dimension or the length of this particular layout is actually 100 millimeter. Okay, so right now it's in millimeter, and this was the length. Now let's see what's the width. So again I will go to this center point, I will left click, and let me extend till this point, and I will left click at this point. Okay, and now let me extend it here. So you can see with the free version of the Eagle software, you can see this is basically the free version of Eagle software. So with free version of Eagle software, we are actually getting a board area of 80 millimeter cross 100 millimeter. Okay, and in this board area you can actually create the layout. If you try to create the layout outside this area, or if you try to increase the size of this board layout, then maybe actually you will actually get an error. Okay, so at this moment we didn't get the error, but when you will try to place the component outside of the 100 cross 80 millimeter area, then you will actually get the error. Okay, so that was the dimension option. And then ERC option we have already discussed. This particular option is actually related to the schematic editor, and I told you at appropriate time I will explain you this ERC errors option in detail when we are done with the schematic of the hardware that we are going to design in this training. So at that time I will explain you the schematic error option. So at this moment let's not discuss this ERC option. Okay, then the next option is related to DRC, which stands for design rule check. So I'm not explaining you this option at this moment, okay, because it's not the right time to discuss this particular option. So I'm not discussing this option here, but quickly if I have to tell you, DRC actually stands for design rule check. In this panel we actually set the design rules. For example, how many layers PCB you want to create in this layout editor, so that information you have to set here. Then what will be the clearance between the two tracks, so that information you have to set here. Then what will be the distance between from the edge of the PCB then to the track, so how close this track can be from the edge of the PCB, that dimension you have to set here. So all these dimension, okay, you have to set in these different options which are given here. Okay, so generally I try to keep the default options here. I don't touch these options, or I don't change the values in these all options. Okay, so again here I'm just going to keep all these default settings. Okay, and that's all about the DRC, which stands for design rule check. With the help of this panel we can actually set the rules for our design. Okay, so I hope that that's clear now. Then the next option is errors. Okay, so these errors are actually related to the layout editor. Whatever errors you will get in this layout editor, you have to resolve all those errors first, and then only you have to send the PCB or the data of the PCB to the manufacturing house. Okay, otherwise you will get lot of problems. Okay, never send your PCB without resolving all these errors. So at this moment I'm not discussing all these stuffs in detail. Whenever we will complete our layout for the hardware, at that time I will discuss all these errors step by step. Okay, and let me close this dialog box at this moment. So that was all about the layout editor, and I hope that every single thing that we discussed in this layout editor is now clear to you. So most of the options, these all options were actually similar to the options that we discussed in the schematic editor. Then this is the route option, repub option, so polygon ratness. So these were some of the important options from the layout editor point of view, and I hope that all these options are actually now clear to you. Now in next video we will discuss the layers which are actually available in this layout editor. So I will walk you through all the layers, not all the layers, but the important layers. Okay. So that's what I wanted to tell in this video. I hope that every single thing that we discussed in this video is now clear to you. And if you still have any kind of doubt related to any of the tool which is actually present in this layout editor, then definitely you can ask me and I will try to help you with that. Okay. Alright, so that's what I wanted to tell in this video. Now I will see you in the next video, which is about Introduction to Layout Editor Part 4.